Awesome. Boots and a hat to make y'all feel welcome. This is like my third or fourth time wearing this stuff, so not common. When I was writing the synopsis for this talk, I had no idea how much time I was going to have. Probably better that it's only 30 minutes for the both of us. I was going to go really deep into the technical aspect of this, so it changed. So this is partly a story. There's some technical aspects to this, and maybe a little bit of a motivational speech too. So the talk is Own Your Infra, Deploying Elixir Without the Training Wheels. And training wheels are related to learning to ride a bike. And I'm going to compare deploying Elixir to riding a bike. And to ride a bike, you need to learn how to do it. And at least in the United States, most children learn to ride bikes with training wheels. And training wheels are great to get started quickly. They won't let you fall over, keep you upright, they keep you stable. The world is your oyster as a child. It's amazing. There's a new sense of freedom. But training wheels, in my opinion, are similar to PaaS, or platform as a service for deploying. They help you remain stable and upright, but ultimately limit you with how much you can do. Your newfound freedom might actually be not as free as you thought it was. So if training wheels are a good thing and a bad thing, what do I mean by that? And basically, it's science for the past 2 decades now show that kids who learn to ride a bike with training wheels actually have a harder time removing the training wheels and learning how to balance properly than ones who didn't start with training wheels at all. In fact, in the early 2000s, several companies came out with pedal-less bikes, and they're called coasters, and there's no pedals, there's nothing to move your feet onto so that you can tip. Your feet are always basically on the ground as you're pushing through. And that's kind of a big deal because you learn from day zero how to actually balance. And when teaching a child how to ride a bike, of course there's mechanics to it, how to pedal, how not to fall over. So there's skill, but I actually think a large portion of teaching a child to ride a bike is confidence and transferring that confidence to your child. You can do it. It's gonna be okay. But a child's going to say, but what if I fall over when I remove the training wheels? I don't want to get hurt. Of course you don't want to get hurt. But you need to instill that confidence in the child to say, you can do this. So that's what I'm here today. I'm transferring that confidence, not teaching you how to ride a bike. I'm just saying, hey, you can deploy without using a PaaS. I'm gonna show you how. So this is Withoutthe. This is a company I work for. We're an educational technology platform that helps underserved communities. On average, a high school student in America receives 30 minutes of general counseling for all 4 years of their high school career. It's not a lot of time. In fact, if you come from a household that is, your parents or siblings have never gone to college or trade school or military, how are you supposed to know what to do? You don't. That's where Withoutthe comes in. We're really just focused on leveling the playing field for everyone in the public school system. So our users are students. There's some parents and educators, teachers, counselors sprinkled in there, but predominantly they're students. And our students only use our platform during school hours, Monday through Friday around lunchtime during school season. So that creates for a really interesting equation here. We're really focused on B2B, the B being in the B2B schools, school districts, or entire states of schools. That's who our customers are. So when we onboard users into our system, it's a thundering herd. It's not just a couple of users here and there. It is a ton of people all at once. So you can kind of think of a gymnasium or a performance hall, cafeteria, where you have several thousand children on their Chromebooks, all hitting the site exactly at the same time at a single high school throughout the district, which could have 10, 15, 20 high schools throughout the entire state, which now you're in the hundreds. So do the math, it's quite a lot. So if anyone out there has any operations or DevOps experience, you can kind of see where this is going. Our users load test our software for free. They're so graciously doing that for us. But you really can't hide when you don't have like a slow ramp where everything is calm before the storm, and then, oh my goodness, we've got tens of thousands of concurrent users. So at this time, I was probably there for a year and a half at Level Law, and everything was fine until it suddenly wasn't. Monday after Monday around 11 o'clock, our application started to become unusable for about an hour. Not good. But hey, we're hosted on a PaaS, so can't you just like move the slider up and everything's fine, right? Anyone ever look at the Phoenix guides for deploying? Anyone want to guess where we were hosted? Oh, well, that was where our main application was. Then we had two other applications here. So what do? Obviously, we throw money at it, right? That's the first line of defense with anything. 2 Black Mondays, as we started to call it we went down again. The classic choice here is to throw money at it. Let's get bigger nodes. Let's get more of them. But we couldn't do more of them because we only ran on a single node. So just a bigger one. Let's go with that. See, distributed computing and concurrency are things that we love to talk about in Elixir, but if you build your application to harness the power of that, you're gonna have a rough time. You add a node, now you have twice as many problems as the first one. So sometimes it really just is easier to get a bigger server than to add servers to the problem. So at the time we had node level caching that just really wouldn't handle distributed computing at all. So we just didn't really deal with it. One of the other things is when you're using a slider on your PaaS, if you control every aspect of how the request gets into your server, from the load balancer or routing layer, you might have a rough time. So if you're missing caches depending on what server you're going to, you can't configure sticky sessions, it's round robin by default, again, you might have trouble. So let's throw more money at the problem because the last money that we threw wasn't enough. Did you know that you can spend $7,000 a month at Elixir on a single node? You can. That's fun. Have you ever used an $800 a month node at fly.io only to be throttled on your CPU within minutes of boot time? We had that happen. So we reached a critical mass here where throwing more money at the problem wasn't actually fixing anything. And the speed at which our students were coming into the application was just too much for us to handle. We're going to ignore that we wrote some bad queries and maybe some other inefficiencies. But when you're dealing with situations, you kind of just need to go as fast as you possibly can. To be fair, we did reach out to support from Fly.io and Elixir, but to be quite honest, we didn't wait for a reply. We just decided we need to move, and we need to move now. So I was given 1 week. You know the thing when you change infrastructures and you have months and months of planning? We had 1 week to move 3 different applications between 2 different PaaS providers onto some different solution. Why? Well, when the head of a certain state, like the Secretary of Education from a state, calls you and says, man, y'all keep going down. This isn't good. Upper management tends to listen. So they said, you have 1 week, it needs to be up by Monday. So what did I do? I obviously used Google. Who is hiring Elixir engineers? No. I mean, I actually use the Google Cloud Platform. They have this wonderful feature called Managed Instance Groups. And it allows you to describe the state of what you want, and then it kind of figures out the rest. In our case, I want this server to be running our software, and when I update that software, go do things and figure it out, right? Well, it does kind of seem like I just described Kubernetes, but not quite. But if you do squint hard enough, what I described with the managed instance group is a PaaS. But it's a PaaS with the most amount of flexibility possible. So let's go back to the deployment guide for Phoenix. Let's go with this route instead. So if we're just going to use releases and we're going to use a little bit of Google, how hard can it be? Actually, not that hard. This is where we get technical. I'm going to gloss over some stuff because, one, I don't have time, but two, it's unimportant to get my point across. Everything is basically controlled with a GitHub action. When we merge our code in, GitHub Actions take over, and we continuously deploy. The pipeline with CI/CD is so tight now that we can deploy many times in a given day. I think our record is 27 times in a given day deployed to production. The GitHub action does a couple of things that I'm just going to completely skip, but it sets up like permissions on who can read the code, how environment variables things, but it also does like compiling, it runs the tests, it builds the assets. But to actually deploy, there's only a few things involved. First, let's do a mix release. That's literally the lines from the file that runs this. It's just mix release. After the application has been compiled, that's what it does. Inside of our mix.exs file, there's a little bit of setup to get exactly what we want. We've instructed the release to include the executables for Unix. That basically copies files, the ERTS or the Erlang Runtime System files into your release. So whatever server you're deploying on doesn't actually need Erlang or Elixir installed at all. It can just run on a bare server. Finally, went to a symbol, which is just boilerplate, and then we want to tar things up. So good old-fashioned zip. Next, this is the all crucial step of taking that release from mix release and putting it somewhere. So GCS is very similar to S3. All this is instructing the CI/CD pipeline to do is just upload a file. That seems pretty easy. So we've mixed release, we've uploaded, and now we need to create an instance template. This is describing what you want your server to be. Now, I did clip like 75% of how many lines are there because there's a bunch of nonsense in there, like describing exactly how we want our hard drives to be set up, exactly what formatting we want on there. You can get really specific, and we do, but it's not there for your eyes because it's not needed. The only really important stuff there is a machine type, Infra standard 16, which is a Intel chip, 16 cores, 64 gigs of memory. We're running on Ubuntu minimal. And then the last two lines, which are metadata, one is a cloud init file that is sitting inside of the source code or alongside everything else inside of that GitHub folder. And then the metadata of the artifact version, which is just telling the system what code am I running. This server, just FYI, $500-ish a month. So substantially lower than the other two options that I mentioned earlier. Next, we need to update our managed instance group. So if we have a template, now we need to flip that template somewhere. The managed instance group is where you do it. So all that is really doing is saying, hey, on this zone, I want you to use this template, and it is a rolling action, and so it will, as the name suggests, go through all of your servers and then update them to using the template. Remember, the template has the version of software that we put in there before. So the only thing else to note in here is that max unavailable is set to 0, so at no time will the load balancer not have a target to point to. Here's a cloud init file. If you've never used one, it's basically a way of in code writing non-bash, but you can put bash stuff in there, instructions on how to bootstrap a server when you first boot it. We use systemd to keep Elixir running. You may have used systemd before. It's pretty easy. That's exactly the file that's running in production right now. Before we start the system, we migrate, as you would, and then start and stop her there. Restart equals always, because if we go down, we don't want to do that, so we don't. Pretty easy. I skipped a bunch in this file. There's a lot of secret management. In the synopsis, I mentioned Doppler. Doppler, if you've never used it for secret management, is awesome software. I skipped that part because you don't need to see it. It's unimportant, but Doppler will set up the server so that all of the environment variables, secrets, API keys, and stuff like that are there. Next, we're going to copy CP. We're going to copy the artifact that we pushed up to their S3 earlier. We're going to take it down. We're going to untar it. We're going to set some permissions. And we're going to reload our system. We're going to start it. Well, that's it. We're done. We've deployed, kind of. But that really is quite literally exactly how we get from start to finish, is a couple of files. We do a mix release, we upload, we download, we start. That's it. So when we were deploying with Elixir, when the problem started happening, on average, our deploys would take 27 minutes. They're down to 5 minutes now for a merge to deploy. And we shaved a 0 off. That's fun. That's always a real fun thing to say to management. And we are significantly over-provisioned right now. And I'm not sure if I care. Our system sits at 1% to 2% memory and CPU for 99% of the time until we have an onboarding event, which we can get up to a whole whopping 30% on both. I still don't care. It's fine. We were spending so much money before, so I take it as a win. So out of this, what's actually missing? Because I kind of like glossed over things. One of the biggest things I didn't go over is how the load balancer interacts with the managed instance group. We'll just say if you take a load balancer and you point it at a managed instance group, magic happens. If you have the correct health checks set up, the server will come in and out of rotation of that load balancer in a way that you thought you spent a lot of time working hard making it work, but really you didn't do any of it, it just works. The load balancer tries really hard not to send traffic to a dead server. So we just kind of let it. The other thing I didn't touch on is our database, Postgres. We went through a bunch of iterations there. Elixir has an offering. Fly.io has, who knows how many they have now, 3 or 4 different versions of Postgres. We also used Crunchybridge at one point. Cloud SQL from Google is actually really expensive, but from the money savings on the Elixir node portion, I guess I just don't care. And it's a managed instance. It's a managed instance of Postgres. It just runs. It's there. So the week that I was given to do this was February, not that long ago. I started on a Monday afternoon after the event, and I was finished by Friday. Since then, we've deployed to production over 3,000 times and have not had a single error since, from the deployment perspective. Since February, we have doubled our user count, and in a few months, we're going to double it again as we have several states onboarding in January. There's absolutely no way that our prior solution would have worked at all for this. So why did we do it? And why did I do it this way? Extreme flexibility. PaaS is a limiting thing. It's nice and it's not. But there's no Docker, there's no Kubernetes, it's just a server. It's just Ubuntu running a mix release, that's it. It's really easy to shell into it and diagnose something wrong with the system, or when you're there, remote console into Elixir and see what's up. So this is like bare metal or a bare VM. with, if you squint again, a lightweight version of PaaS on top. Systemd keeps Elixir running. The managed incident group keeps the servers running. The load balancer is aware of everything. Our traffic is shifted from server to server when they come in and out of rotation. And our VMs are only kept around long enough as that deploy is living. So we treat our VMs as a container where that actual server VM is created, launched with our software, and then it's thrown away at the end of it. We do that because of security patching. When it boots for the first time, it runs an apt-get upgrade sort of thing to make sure that we have the latest, greatest security patches. So why not Docker? Why not Doku? Why not Kubernetes, Kamal, real bare metal, or whatever else? I had a week. I knew that I could get it done. If I did it exactly this way, I knew I could get it done. That's basically it. Besides some of the Google flavored stuff like Managed Incidents Group, you can do the exact same thing on AWS and Azure. Things are a little bit different, primitives are different, but this is basically as simple as you can get. Mix release. So when would you not want to do this? Well, if you have a really small team like we have, I think it's a great option. But if you're a solo developer with a side gig, maybe just stick with Fly. It's probably better. And if you're at a giant company, you've got an ops team and they're off in Kubernetes land anyway, so you're not going to be doing this. So I'm here to say that you can do this. And I hope that you take a couple things from this talk. The first is you don't have to rely on PaaS for everything. You don't need to believe the myth that Elixir is hard to deploy. It's not. Our entire CI/CD pipeline for deployment is 2 YAML files long. I'm sure that's like 10% of the stuff you need on Kubernetes. Those files, which were copied almost verbatim with some lines removed, I wrote those in February. I have not touched them since. It just runs. We now have 4 applications, one more than the 3 that I moved running in production. We also have staging environments for all of them. And to spin up a new application is really simple. You just move some YAML files around. It's really not that hard. So everything is about balance. When is too much? When is too little? If your product is growing and you need a way out, then I'm here to say get rid of the training wheels. And maybe you find that freedom that you didn't even know existed. It's like a meme or a saying these days, but like you can just do things. I feel like that's what I'm here to say, is like if you're a part of a small team and you really don't like using your PaaS, just do it. Change. You can fail, great. Then you can learn from it and make it better. It's really not as hard as you're thinking that it is. I lurk most places around for Elixir, so I'm in the Slack and the Austin stuff. Sometimes I come to the meetups here. Funny enough, this is my second talk, again on deployment. I did this upstairs 9 years ago, talking about AWS deployment. Jim Freeze was sitting right next to me. We got into an argument about Heroku. It was real fun. 9 years ago, that was before render.io, fly.io, GigaElixir, name the PaaS. It was before all of them. And I felt then a big, strong sense of imposter syndrome. And I even mentioned that in my talk. I'm like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing, guys. Like, I think you can do it this way. Well, the imposter syndrome, it's still here. It's still bacon. But I can confidently say, though, that if you just do things, it works. So just do it. Thanks.